Do you ever feel unprepared when those game-changing patches drop? I went with this hyper summary because I want to give you the hidden gems that you won't find anywhere before everyone. So in this video, we're going to go over 1.52 on the test server in its greatest just before it hits live. And we're going to talk about 3 major changes in depth. It's going to be Lucretia rework and Mortas synergies. It's going to be the huge campaign nerfs and the new artifact. So let's get on to it. First, let's just get the quick changes out of the way. So there's going to be Mortas, there's going to be the Trials, there's going to be Misty Valley. Now, Misty Valley, if we know anything, it's going to have a Mortas stage, so save the Trials for the Misty Valley. You all know this. There's lots of Abyssal Expedition changes and lab changes, but we don't know everything that's going to be coming down, so I'm just going to avoid covering them until we know a little bit more. Some data mines, some are released over a community page, so definitely check that out. Trials of God. Now, the Trials of God is not as interesting. I'll make a video if you guys need it. Ask you over for my community page for a guide, but the interesting part of it is the artifact exclusive Tide Bearer. So it's going to be for the support class. We'll talk about it in a second in the video. New lab, we don't know much about it except the data mines. Monthly card deluxe, nobody cares. Reduced difficulty of teams. All right, so huge campaign nerfs. We'll cover this in the video. All right, so there's going to be 480 floors within each respective tower. So if we get this right, this is going to be also the Asperia towers. This is really, really scary because fighting multiple teams is going to be really, really good. But as you know, we see changes in campaign that nerf difficulty on secondary teams. So no reason to panic quite yet saying, oh, maybe I need 10 models. Let's just wait to see how, in what form will this hit live, because the devs are really paying attention to balance. And I don't know if we have 10 models for a viable composition. Anyways, he was within Arena Trial now, equipped 30 signature items, 9 mythic furniture. All right. This is going to be actually really, really good for some of the tests. Some logic, VIP levels, bunch of abyssal optimizations, and then the Lucretia reworks. So the abyssal expedition, they're pretty nice. We'll cover them in another video once we confirm them with the leaks, but the Lucretia is something that we'll have to cover. All right, so for the first section I really want to focus, that's going to be Mortas. Now, Mortas is a Hypogean support, already looking good. Now, for his stats, he has Hendrix HP. We see defense is slightly higher than Rigby's, obviously lower than tanks like Lucius, so pretty tanky but low attack. This implies he might be a support, but just wait until you hear what he does. For the abilities, we see the empowerment. This goes on every single one of the allies. Once he buffs every single one of your allies, he won't be able to ult anymore. He gets 40% of their attack rating and 40 attack speed points. Attack speed is going to refer to haste, but without the cooldown section, if we get the translation right. But we'll have to really test him with other heroes. That's one thing I'm not yet able to do. So some of this is still theory crafted, but we still have a lot to say. Greed is going to be very interesting. So Greed, what it's going to do is going to steal enemy current health and current shield value. What's very valuable about this is after it levels with the energy points, very strong against the God comp, especially Talene, especially the recent barricades. That's going to be pretty interesting to see, especially in PvP. Now, I'm going to hop onto the next ability that's interesting in PvP context, and that's the fact he's able to steal ally recovery, enemy recovery, for up to 25 seconds. He heals for a short amount, like the enemy that heals the most. This is not the Talene herself, because the Talene heals other allies. It does not negate all healing, but it definitely grabs lots of healing back. One of those heroes like me, hero like Damon, that scales on enemy health and recovery. So probably pretty interesting at the very least in campaign. We'll talk about the PvP utility of this in just a second, because there's a lot more to talk about. Alright, Blood Pact recovers another ally health. He damages himself, restores another ally. It's not like Talene because it's an active and not a passive. Still pretty strong support overall. Onward to his furniture. So the furniture thing, he takes the empowerment buffs that he gives back onto himself. It can do this up to 1 to 3 times. Now, unless you want him as a carry against the Talene or a Damon that's shielded, it's not as valuable. What I do want to talk about is the furniture stats, which are insane. Tenacity 11. If you've ever watched this Tenacity 11, if you ever did the numbers on that, that's completely busted. I will slow down on this though. I don't want to M&M this all the time. So signature item deception, and this is going to come down to translation. This is going to be huge. If this is mass translated, and this refers to when a normal attack deals a critical strike, you see it deals damage to another enemy. The damage is reduced by 20%. So essentially 80% of a normal attack that crits, the damage is going to transfer to another enemy. Now, the question is, What does a normal attack refer to? Any normal attack on your team, any normal attack on the field, his normal attack, and his or an ally that's buffed normal attacks. And we can't really tell. I'm not able to test this because my test server account is not advanced enough to just gaze him all the way and just get the signature item. But if it's on allies, it's completely busted. This is going to be like 3 lore cents in a burst set. This is going to be completely crazy. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think it's only going to work on him, make him also do those AoE attacks on greed. It kind of works with how the furniture takes back the attack. So if we see this work, it's going to be mad on PvP on burst. I think in PvP, on the very least, it's going to be used for the counter heal, also attacking into the shield, so any variant of God comp. It's going to be very strong. I think the strongest suit you'll have is campaign, where you can really get the max value out of his greed, and him gifting this to other allies too. So quick rundown of Mortas. I don't think it's going to be a first priority ascent. I think it's going to be pretty strong, like upper end of the meta, and not in the very top tier, but somewhere up there. I think the signature item is what you really want on this guy, because if it works the way it is, then it's completely busted. Furniture is useful, but I don't see him being used as a carry in campaign just as much, because it relies on the enemy really suffering the AoE damage. It relies on very specific situations. I don't think I see him as a mainstream carry, especially when you compare him to other hypogeans, and especially into the hypogean that was just reworked. So let's talk about her for a second. Lucretia. Lucretia got 4 changes that we need to talk about, and we seriously need to talk about because this is game changing. So Hellfire. People don't understand Hellfire. Hellfire does 90% damage every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. I want you to just understand what this means. Just ignore all the other text. Just see, every 0.5 seconds, she does 90% scaling for 10 seconds. Now, this is to all enemies in proximity to her. So if she runs up onto enemies with the shield the way she is now, she deals 1,800 damage. 1,800 damage, that's just completely busted. Now let's talk a little bit about the fact that Hellfire now no longer expires after she used her ultimate for 2 times. So once she regenerated 2,000 energy, her Hellfire does not disappear anymore. This means she can just proc 1, 2, 3, 4 Hellfires, deal completely busted amounts of damage. 2 times. Now you might be telling me, Linker, but it takes her a while to do 2 times. Oh, just you wait. Also, 1 time after she does the ultimate, energy recovery rates reduced by 50%. People don't understand, 50% is huge. This is way bigger than what Feral Effect usually does. This is very disabling. The issue with this is that they took 2 ults here, 7 ults here, and the effect that generates her energy, we'll talk about in a second, was way less good. So right now, 1 ult, energy recovery disabled on the enemy team. 2 ults, you see the Hellfire no longer expires, and she disables ultimate abilities for a short duration. This is completely busted. Now, you might be asking, but Linker, how did she get to ult? Now her signature item. I want you to read this text. 150 energy points per second over 5 seconds. Now, what's the trigger in this? You might be asking, her killing an enemy, where she will take her windmoring. No, this is every time an ally dies. It's the same Lucretia cheese, but she generates 750 energy points per signature item 1. Just the signature item 1. This is the old effect she had buffed, and this is just in the signature item 1. So essentially, if 4 allies die, if you just put 4 level 1s, this is 3,000 energy right off the bat. Now 3,000 energy, that's 2 ults. 2 ults, what do they do? Well, we know pretty well what they do. They give her 40 life leash. They give her energy recovery rate that's buffing the energy that she gets from the other abilities. And on top of that, all the allies just died, so she gets all her bonuses. This is completely mad. Now, after she does this, with the life leech, with the energy, she does ult in an AoE, 320% damage, and recovers the energy off of that, and heals off of that. Really strong. Okay, so that's on top of the Hellfire. So she can proc the Hellfire 1, 2 times, however she wants, and she does the 2 ultimates right away, disabling enemy ultimate abilities, energy recovery rates. Now you might be telling me, but Linker, I put her with 4 level 1s, and she'll be having to tank all the damage. She can burst things down instantly, which is where you'd be wrong. She can, but she can also mitigate damage. Now let's talk about her mitigations. Damage reduced by 30%, enemy formation includes Zephril. It goes on him. It goes on a specific target. And she reduced another 20% damage that's incoming to her. So this is an enemy damage reduction. This is damage incoming to her reduction by 20% for the first 5 seconds of hunting phase. Now, 5 seconds, this is what it takes her to cheese. This is when all her allies die. So she has times where her cumulative stacking is just so insane. Like, she takes no damage. And then the level 2 is damage to hunted enemy increases by 40%. The way these stack is just completely busted. This is way over Toon, way over all Lucretia. And this might even put her in a very high priority. The last thing I want to talk about is that those stacking Hellfires also reduce enemy defense. So if we had all these different multipliers that we were talking about earlier, like damage reduced by 20 times the 70% that they already do, so we're talking about a very strong reduction. The enemies also take 40%. She also deals essentially true damage. And the reason is that she can stack Hellfires, and the effect for the Hellfire decreasing defense rating can be stacked. So if she does 3 Hellfires, if she does 6 Hellfires, the enemy defense rating is basically 0. Now, damage Lucretia receives while the flames are present are reduced by 20%. That's on top of the bonus that she receives over here, which of reduced damage, basically making her something very inevitable during the very start of the hunting phase and giving her a very prominent bonus. Now, we still didn't talk about the Twin Terrors. That's the same effect she had earlier, but reduces dodge, tenacity, attack speed, crit amplification. She also has like the scaling over here, just completely mad. Also, the new signature item increases her haste. So haste increased 8 points for 20 seconds. Attack rate increased by 35% for 20 seconds. These stack. If 4 allies die, this is Albedo pre-nerf buff that we're talking about. 140% or something that effect to attack rating right away. We see 32 haste. Now you might be telling me, okay, Linker, so she bursts down anything virtually very fast. No, that triggers the celerity bonus. So I don't know if you guys remember, but Elder Tree Celerity, the ability on Elder Tree Celerity, and I don't have it on test, but you'll have to believe me, this is 140 haste for a short duration of time, 5 or 6 seconds, depends on your level. But this is completely crazy. You see, like, what? 80 points of haste stacking with 32 points of haste with 130 attack with, like, it's just so much crit amplification, crit rating, life leech, attack speed. It's just non-ending cheese stacks. I feel like she's completely overtuned, and while I can't test her yet and we'll have to wait for live, she seems very strong. Next topic we're going to talk about is going to be the new artifact. You'll have to excuse this test server account and just borrowed it from Titus. Shout out to Titus. We see that Tidebearer increases shields. Like, what it does not proc instantly, but every 15 seconds, it gives a shield equal to 40% of max health for 5 seconds. After a lapse, it converts into energy at some ratio. We'll need to test this, obviously, but this is basically God comp material. Because you see, this is very longevity oriented. You need to survive for 15 seconds to proc 1 shield. If you do for more, then it survives for more. This competes with Call. I think it's very strong in a defensive utility. I feel like those comps really want to disable you. Like, you need the Aziz, and you rely on many ults to keep the Aziz going. This is also what you see against certain TR bosses. So I'm a little bit skeptical if this can really replace Call, but I think being like a second-rate substitute is going to be pretty strong. You're going to see it, I'm pretty sure. So Tidebearer, definitely keep an eye out for that. Definitely grab it from the Trials of God and experiment with it yourself. And maybe in some campaign stages, it's going to be really strong on some stall compositions. Maybe not even completely sustenance oriented. Some stuff with, I don't know, Flora, Mahira, stuff like that. And the final change is going to be the campaign changes. Now, I can't show this on this test server account because it's just in 22. Thanks for Titus to borrowing this again for me. But the changes are drastic. I'll pull up an image from Reddit. Basically, the last sets of chapters 31, 60, and all these new compositions, like when you do 31.4, when you do 31.60, when a new set introduces, they're gonna nerf the sets drastically. Like, you see completely different scaling here. You see stuff that's very weak. The aim with this is that your first team can be very strong. Second team and third team can be way less strong when you approach those chapters. So you have more time to acquire them as the stages slowly spiral. I think it might have the mind in the right place. It will upset some endgame players that had to cut through the difficult version of those campaigns. What I think this gives you time is it gives you time to collect more heroes. Because if in the past, in 31.4, you already had to have 2 completely functional teams, and you had to do all kinds of things, here that's no longer the case. Here you can really do whatever you want and just kind of wing it the way that you would like. So you can just spiral out. And I think the essential strategy that's buffed by this is stargazing, because you can now afford to sacrifice some short-term progress and not lose as much as you did earlier. So say you're approaching chapter 31, you don't yet have the god comp, you just have like, I don't know, like an Aaron that's kind of invested, you make Gwyneth or the vice versa. You can use your less viable carry and just get away with it for much, much, much longer, because the way the spiral is just way more linear rather than just a bomb just hitting you at 31.4 and another one at 31.60. So I think stargazing is way more prevalent than it was earlier, because you can afford to be with one less set to gain extra flexibility towards the late game. Buff towards up to chapter 36. So 37 is going to be the new end game. Definitely looking forward to get there. Just cut to 35 as I'm speaking with you right now, pre-nerf. But lots of videos coming up. I hope you liked this one. Like and subscribe if you did. It was off script. And I've been Linker. Peace.